Hey guys, welcome back to the Evan and Katelyn podcast, where today we're going to be answering all of those DIY questions that you've been DIYing to ask.
Like dying to ask.
Like dying to ask? Is that clever?
Yeah.
The conviction behind that really convinced me. Thanks.
Well, we feel like for two people with a DIY channel, we don't really talk about DIYing very much on this podcast. And we do get questions about it. So
yeah. But today we're answering all your DIY questions. We put out a poll or a
call for questions
on our subreddit on Twitter and on our YouTube community, and we're going to be going through all of those. But first, what's new, Katelyn? Oh,
you wrote down things for what's new.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to
I don't have anything new.
my main new
My
thing
life's the same.
is I went to a physical therapist for my arm, shoulder, wrist things. And so I'm going to start going to more regular physical therapy to, get all that back on track. But, yeah, a lot of it is due to a swimming injury from, high school.
Yeah.
Still haunting me.
Which I think we kind of suspected that, the shoulder was that because you had injured your shoulder.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that the other stuff was related,
Yeah,
too.
it's like the nerve gets pinched up here, and that gets my whole arm, and sometimes my leg, too, which is crazy. But honestly, that sent me down, this huge, side quest rabbit hole of, split mechanical keyboards, because I'm supposed to keep my,
Well, you were already down that side quest. When you already had the
keyboards
split
in general?
No, you already had the split mechanical keyboard before your physical therapy and the vertical mouse. That was your thing of the week last time.
Oh yeah, it's all my ergonomic journey.
But this sent you down a further rabbit hole to even weirder split mechanical keyboards.
So weird, where the layout is straight up and down columnar and stuff, and
Well, there's one that you were looking at where it's it's a split keyboard, and you have your hands resting on each one, and they are the mouse. And so you have keyboard mittens on, and you just like a DJ, and that moves your mouse, and you type at the same time.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Now all of these are very expensive and custom made and stuff, which is why
it's hard.
I spent such a long time researching it because I don't want to make a mistake and stuff. But I finally ordered one. It'll get in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I'm impatient.
At least you have your other split keyboard.
Yeah. But I think I'm becoming a split keyboard advocate now. At least for people with shoulder problems. But eventually everyone's going to have shoulder problems, right? We're all going to be old one day. And if in our generation, I'm sure that we're going to be old, sitting there playing Minecraft. Oh, can you build that cat statue faster?
It's definitely gonna be it.
Just trying to come up with a realistic situation here.
Honey, can you pass me some baked potatoes? I'm low on health. I thought you started that farm.
I'm almost done. I'm making it an auto farm.
Why are we so low on potatoes all the time? You're responsible for the food.
Oh, that's great. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, but that's where I've sunk a little bit of time recently. It's been a nice rabbit hole to fall into.
I just hope that it continues to improve your shoulder and all that stuff.
It has been improving. So thank you for listening to my story. Anyways,
are you thanking me or are you thanking them?
Thanking them.
Okay.
And you. Thank you for putting up with me looking into keyboards while you edit.
It's important.
It's important. Okay. So on to the main topic of the day. Why you may be clicked on this podcast. Let's just jump straight into the questions. First off, we got a lot of questions about tool recommendations and everything like that. That seems to be one of the most common questions that we get asked every time we do a Q&A.
And we didn't want to get too specific for any one person's very specific scenario, just because we want this to be everyone to be able to listen to it. But there are some things that I think individuals ask that could be helpful for lots of people.
Yeah. So Missy from Twitter asks, what tool do you regret purchasing the most? And related to that, Column the Destroyer asks, what would you say was the best investment tool-wise? And there's lots of similar questions along those lines.
Yeah, so biggest tool regret and best tool investment. I think there's kind of like a category of regret where we buy something because we're kind of testing it out and it ends up being not that great because we got like a cheaper option, and then we just don't use it because it's not great. Yeah. And we don't necessarily have the room for the better option. Or, well, I guess sometimes we end up getting the better option and we throw the old one. Yeah. Or not throw it away, but we like give it to Goodwill or something.
Yeah. I think that, this is a tough question to start out. I don't know why I put this first. But I think that, like, if I venture into all of the tools we use, including camera gear and everything like that, I could have some great answers.
So we did get some questions that were more related to the filming side of like filming DIY projects, and we are not including those in this today because we wanted this to be more about DIY. So we're not going to get into like camera equipment.
What do I think was the best thing we bought and the worst? Okay, does resin count as a tool?
No. Well, we didn't really think about this too much.
No, I wanted it to be real. I wanted like the discussion to happen right now. Is it lame to say like this one screwdriver that I really like? I mean, honestly, I use that screwdriver all the time, and it's like my super screwdriver.
Ooh. I know one of mine.
What's that?
So in terms of best, when we got our miter saw, we originally did kind of have just like a small basic one, and we liked what a miter saw did so much. And if you're not super familiar with DIY, that's the one that it's kind of on a stand and there's a big spinning wheel and we lower the wheel.
You said if you're not familiar with DIY, you said miter saw?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not like if you're like new to DIY, you might not know. Like I'm not going to assume everyone like knows what every single type of saw is.
No, yeah.
So that's the one where you've seen us use, where it's a big vertical spinning wheel and we lower it down to the wood and then raise it back up. And the reason we like it is because it's like very controlled. Like you're not free-wielding a blade, and stuff like that. When we bought our new one, it was a splurge for us, especially at the time, where we got one that could do different angles and like had a really deep cutting area and was like nice. And we got like a folding stand that we could roll and stuff. Yeah. And I do not regret that investment of the whole thing, the whole package.
I think that if you are going to get started into DIY, we get a lot of questions about this. We generally say, start with what will motivate you to finish the project. Come up with like an objective before you start buying tools.
Come up with the project.
Come up with the projects, yeah. But I think that in terms of the best bang for your buck, I mean, a miter saw and the Craig jig, like a pocket hole jig of some sort.
Oh yeah, you can do a lot with that.
You can do so much with just those two things.
But do you have regret ones?
I don't really have regret ones. Like, I'm trying to think of.
I feel like there's been some things, like didn't we like buy one vacuum chamber type and then we had to get another vacuum chamber because like it wasn't, or maybe it wasn't vacuum chamber.
Like nothing really springs to mind in terms of like, oh, I regret that.
Oh, the sledgehammer.
Okay, the sledgehammer was a little bit of an impulse purchase just because like I was like, sledgehammer.
This is before we just moved into the house and Evan was like, we obviously need a sledgehammer because we're totally one day gonna bust up that patio in the backyard and replace the patio with a new one. We're gonna do that ourselves. No, we hit the corner. You hit the corner of the patio once for an inaugural whack, and we've never used that sledgehammer. And it's big and it's heavy and it takes up a lot of space.
Well, I think that also I'm kind of just scrolling back through some of our videos and everything like that to see if anything like strikes me as like we should have just done this from the beginning or something like that. I think that because for most of our DIY career, we have had like in our mind that this is going to be like a business and this is long term. And I think that just from our past life experiences, we knew that like getting the cheaper, somewhat like slightly, maybe more compromised for money, purchase might haunt us later on. So in general, I think we have leaned towards like getting the more like proper
maybe once
thing.
We like knew that
But like, remember when I bought that really big expensive vise and you're like, do we need a vise this big?
Oh yeah.
And how much that vise is coming in handy?
Well, that's a great example of one that an investment you don't regret. The super expensive, very heavy duty vise.
Yeah, it's great. But I think with a lot of things we did that.
But didn't you get like a base for that vise that was also super heavy and expensive that we never used?
Oh, that was for yes. I did get an adjustable vise. That is one that I regret. But the reason why I got that is for our drill press. I thought I could like really precisely position things under it using that vise. But the drill press we bought is from Harbor Freight. It's really cheap. It doesn't hold it. It's not adjustable. It's
that's one of those tools that when we have a bigger workshop, we will be replacing quickly.
And I think that we bought, for the drill press, there's some things where we did compromise just because we didn't have space for that.
Or we don't have like a use for it all the time.
Yeah.
Like the drill press, or like our bandsaw is kind of janky. We have some like sanders that are kind of janky.
Yeah. We have a lot of things that like
that are like half jank.
We kind of got the cheaper version because we weren't ready for the real big legit version.
Or we didn't have room.
Mainly because of size.
Yeah.
Mainly because of size, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that, in terms of what tool do you regret purchasing the most, oftentimes when we compromise and we have to buy something else. And what would you say was the best investment tool-wise?
Are you just answering the questions again? We've already kind of answered that one.
I know. I was just trying to like summarize it. It really depends on what type of thing we're talking about. I'm just going to cheat here and say our microphones.
Okay, that doesn't count. We already gave real answers. The miter saw, the vise.
Yeah.
Like, Yeah. But it's going to differ. I think one reason that those pop into my head is they're tools that get a lot of use for a lot of different type of projects.
Yeah.
Some things are so specific
saw.
and they might be really cool, but like how often do we use them,
Yeah.
So
I think that's good. All right, let's jump categories to resin. And Poopyhead from Reddit asks, what made you want to do your first resin project?
I wanted to make a geode table.
Yeah, I mean, again, we were kind of following our own advice. We had an idea for the project. We had a vision that we wanted to accomplish, and we knew that resin was the right thing to do that with. And that's what got us over the learning hump and over the motivation hump. We'll talk about motivation later in this because we got some questions perhaps. But
well, I think it's really hard to I was going to go into motivation, but
go for it.
It's really hard to motivate yourself when you don't know why you're trying to motivate yourself, which is why, and it's really hard to build a workshop when you don't know what you're building a workshop for, which is why like our answer to those to motivation questions and to like what kind of tools do I get and how do I get started questions almost always go back to like, well, what do you want to make?
Yeah.
Because that's your motivation is like to make a thing. Like you should be excited about something specifically.
And I think that I relate to the source of those questions too, because when I was younger and I was dreaming of the future, I just kind of dreamed of a workshop filled with tools that I'll do things with, and like the goal in my head was to be able to make whatever I wanted. But when I was younger, I didn't really have any visions for those objects.
Interesting. I think maybe I'm just a more like results driven. I don't know. Like maybe I.
No, but like I'm agreeing with where we are now. I think you should always start with what you want. So maybe one way to go about it is instead of like trying to like research what tools to get, research what projects excite you. Go to Instructables, go to Reddit, go to whatever source of inspiration that you might find that inspiration first and then start researching what tools will allow you to accomplish that goal.
Yeah.
So find that inspiration first.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good advice.
That was a good idea. Good job patting yourself on the back. You're going to pull a shoulder.
Yeah, not again. Okay, so let's go back to tools. What are tools you think that everyone should have in their home? I do have some recommendations for this. A really good multifunctional screwdriver that has all the bits stored in the handle. Yes. I really like that.
You have a specific one.
I have a specific one. It'll be in the description. I think a drill.
Yeah. It makes things so much easier.
A hammer.
Gotta hang your pictures. Are you looking up our recommended tool list?
I'm looking up our recommended tool list. What else? What else comes to your mind? Measuring tape.
Oh, measuring tape. Oh,
measuring tape for sure.
I mean, some things. I'm trying to think of like the stuff you do as a homeowner.
Stud finder?
Maybe. I just feel like that's so specific. You might not need it. But I think a drill, a hammer, like a handful of utility knives, like big utility knives. But again, I wouldn't suggest necessarily
just getting them
because most of the time you're probably not going to have a like picture hanging emergency. I guess if you want to think of like, oh, what things might you need to have on hand in an emergency? Maybe like, would you need like a pipe wrench or something if you need to like?
Oh yeah.
Because like the only emergencies I can really think of are going to be like plumbing.
Yeah, maybe like some adjustable crescent wrenches and some.
If you need to like tighten a pipe in a pinch.
Yeah, and then like a pipe wrench. Or two pipe wrenches. Two pipe wrenches.
You need two to unscrew.
And maybe 2 crescent wrenches.
Yeah, but other than that, you just buy stuff as you need it.
And I think a measuring tape.
I think
everyone should have a measuring tape if you like. Are
pretty small investment.
Are in like a house or apartment, just because like you're like, well, if I'm going to buy a couch, how big is it? Or if I'm going to like, it's good for visualizing. Yeah, but beyond that, I'm not sure. Like a ruler? I don't know. Flashlight? Calipers.
I don't know if the average person needs calipers.
I think flashlights. Everyone should have flashlights. Well, for emergencies.
But is that a
like
tool?
Like if the power goes out?
I don't consider a flashlight a tool. I know we have it on our list. A headlamp. That seems more like a tool.
I
don't know why. They're both lights.
Go, duct tape.
Is that a tool or is that a material? Always have duct tape.
Always have
blue painter's tape.
Yeah, blue painter's tape.
Green.
Yeah.
Whichever
tape you want. Yeah.
Safety glasses.
Safety glasses? Safety glasses. You only get 2 eyes and they don't go back.
Yeah, you only get 2 eyes and like if you're drilling into drywall or doing anything like in the attic, you need safety glasses.
Yeah, safety. Glasses. Gloves.
Yeah. Work gloves.
Gloves. Hearing protection. I don't think most people need hearing protection.
I feel like that's not as like of a basic need.
Well, this is like kind of ironic to say it right now, but like masks for a lot of things, like if you're going into the attic or you're drilling above you or like
anything
into the
with
drywall.
Yeah,
masks.
Yeah.
I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think we can move on from this question because we're at a point where we're just like literally scrolling through our own website recommendations.
Yeah, it's true.
But I think those are some good basics.
Okay, I'm going to skip over Resin. I'm going to go to planning logistics. Ooh. This is a good.
Oh, I like this one.
Yeah, I like this question. So Oreo's Pasta from the YouTube community page asks, where is the line between DIY and just call a pro for you? And related to that, Melanie Messner from Twitter asks, when you just need something for your house or something breaks, how do you decide when to DIY or when to just go buy it?
So I will say our answer is different now than it was before the channel.
Yes.
Because our answer now is, will it make a good video? If it will make a good video, then we will do it ourselves.
Yeah.
If it will not make a good video, then we will typically either hire a pro or hire the thing, like solve it by paying for it.
Yeah, I mean, but that's solely because we're so tight on time.
Yeah. So I think like the more applicable answer
but before we were
the more applicable answer for everyone is kind of how we did things before we were content creators. Mm-hmm. And I think so it's kind of different, like call a pro versus just buy it. The just buy a thing is assuming like you can make a thing or buy a thing. When I think of call a pro, I think of like you're either fixing something yourself or calling someone to fix it. Yeah. So they're sort of separate. For the call a pro, it's partially how badly can you mess it up.
So electrical.
Yeah, so like electrical.
Yeah.
How complicated is it? Like, how easy is it to research or do yourself? Something like paint. Like, you can't mess it up that badly.
You can't mess it up.
You know what I mean? Like, if you don't like it, you just buy more paint. But something like electrical, you could really mess that up. Or even something like plumbing, you could really mess that up. Ironically, we did do some plumbing ourselves.
Yeah.
And then also, like, how much money are you going to save by doing it yourself? Because a lot of these things, like, okay, gutters, for example, if you get a line of gutter replaced, it's not going to, I don't think you will save much money doing it yourself because, like, the professionals that do it have, like, this long line of gutter and they can cut it at the perfect length and you have to buy, like, segments, like, and it's not as good of an end product.
Yeah.
And
gutters is a great example.
Of, like, hire it out,
Yeah, I think so.
You can't, so it's, like, how bad will it be if you mess it up? How much money do you save? And also, like, can you get like a similarly good product? And the gutters is another great example because if you do your gutters yourself, you're going to have like these joints. You won't have a continual run of gutter.
And honestly, like, we've had this happen to us. This wasn't a gutter that we installed ourselves, but like when your gutter fails and it gets clogged up or if it wasn't angled right and everything, it can get so heavy, it just tears your whole side of your house out. Not the whole side, but it's the fascia.
Yeah.
But
it just tore a chunk of like our roof off.
Yeah, basically. We just woke up in the morning. We're getting ready to go to work.
Wake up in the morning and your gutter's off.
Yeah, and we called into work. We're like, okay, we're gonna fix our house instead. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like it was open to the our attic was open to the air, and the weather and the rain and stuff.
But like for example, another thing that we hired out was our floors. We have laminate wood flooring in our house. And
we actually tried to do our laundry room.
Yeah, we tried to do our laundry room. Yeah. We considered doing the wood floors ourselves. We ended up hiring someone just because it was like such a big project. Like it's not something we could just dip our toes into, and I'm so glad we did because there's like so many complications that came up with our floor, like our subfloor being unlevel, and we tried. We were like, oh, well, we'll hire out the wood floors, but we'll do tile in our laundry room. And we tried to level it. Oh, my God. That should have been a sign that we would be cursed by leveling things forever. We tried to level that floor, and it was so messed up, we had to call someone to come fix our mistakes.
Yeah, and that's one where you can mess up, Well, like, at the same time, removing your old floor, like, carpet or something like that.
Oh, yeah, you could, like, probably remove carpet.
You could probably remove carpet or something like that. And if the floor is great underneath it, maybe you can just do it yourself, So one big recommendation that I have for both of these questions is look up a YouTube video first.
Oh, yeah.
And if while you're watching it, you're like, oh, okay. Like I said, electrical is something that you might want to hire out, especially like running a new run or adding a new box or something like that. Those are things that you might want to hire out. But like
if you want to swap a light fixture.
Yeah, so it's like if you look up a YouTube video and they're like, okay, go out to your breaker box, turn the house power off, just unscrew here, screw this back in, boom, you're done. Yeah, you can do that. Or replacing an outlet. If you look up a YouTube video and you're like, oh yeah, I understand that. I have a complete understanding of this and I'm good to go. Mm-hmm. Then maybe go for it. But like if like with some plumbing things too, so many plumbing things, it could be like a whole bunch of different issues. Mm-hmm. So you might want to call a plumber who has more experience, who can like just through years of experience can troubleshoot it a lot faster than you can, and you might mess it up. So
yeah,
I think watch some YouTube videos. If you can find the answer and it looks doable, maybe do it yourself. But if you can't find the answer, or you're like, no.
And if there's minimal risk of like messing things up super badly.
Also, be realistic with yourself about how much time you have and how much time the project will take.
Yes. Do you want that hole in your ceiling to be there forever? No, that's why we hired someone to fix the hole in our ceiling when Evan fell through it. Because we knew we didn't have time to patch it ourselves. Yeah, even though we've patched ceilings before, And
also, anytime you're estimating how long a project will take, multiply it by 2.
And then by 2 again.
And then by 2 again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to take longer.
Remember when I bought all those electrical outlets and I was going to replace them all around the house?
Yeah, when we first bought the house and we still have a bucket of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got half of them.
Yeah, you got half of them. The other half, we just put furniture in front of them. We're like, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Okay, let's move to another resin one. Gunno Girl from Twitter says, if I've never done resin but I find it amazing and magical. What would you recommend I start off with on a budget? I probably have 0 tools that we do, and I think I'm an apartment dweller with no experience.
So there's a couple parts to this question. One I will say is resin's not cheap.
And it's
I have heard rumors that Michaels started selling resin, and maybe it's a little bit cheaper there. I don't know, but I've seen some people
know they have
about
resin at Michaels. Yeah, some Michaels.
Yeah. So resin is not a cheap thing. Now,
and it's messy.
And it's messy. It's fumy. Cleanup can be bad. You know, you will probably go through a bunch of like stir sticks and tiny measuring cups and stuff.
Yeah. You probably need to put like tarps everywhere.
Yeah, or get like a silicone mat.
Yeah.
But I think if you do want to get started, I think actually, you know, we started doing like big geode slices. Oh no, we started with little coasters.
Coasters.
So I think the best way to get started is buy small pre-existing molds. Like, don't worry about making your own molds yet, because that's a whole nother thing. And honestly, I would say UV resin is probably less intimidating.
I think UV resin is a little bit less intimidating
because you don't have to mix it.
But
and you can make really small things really easily.
I wonder, with UV resin, I guess you could just open up the doors to your house or something, or wear a mask.
I mean, you can get a UV light, and it's not that.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you can't do UV resin experiments outside, because it'll just start curing right away.
No, but you can. I mean, you can open up your doors and turn on a fan.
Yeah,
you know,
something like that.
And like also, like
it also depends on how much resin you're using. If you're just making like tiny little charms. You might not need
we're not the resin safety police experts. Read the directions on whatever resin you get. Things differ, yada yada, you know.
Yeah, depending on the formula and everything.
I think because like UV resin, you can buy such a small container of it. Because I think part of it is like, I don't want to get these like a two gallon jugs of resin for my first time, because what if I try it and I'm not good? What if I don't like it? It can, you know, yellow over time in the bottles and stuff, you know. And so that's another reason why I think, like, if you just want to kind of dip your toes, just find the smallest container you can buy. Maybe that's 2-part resin. Maybe it's UV resin. They both have their benefits.
Okay, so that's the resin part. What would you recommend for colorants?
Mica powder and alcohol ink.
Yeah. If you're going to choose only one.
Probably mica powder.
Yeah.
That's what we use the most.
It's more resiny. It does resiny things.
It's what gives it the swirly, pearly look. Alcohol ink, you can do some really cool effects with it, and it can also give it like a translucent color. But personally, the one that we use the most is mica powder. And when you think of like resiny stuff, you're probably picturing
especially on the furniture side. Now, some people do like the alcohol drops on top, and they do the blooms down, and there's all of that. Yeah.
See what inspiration you find. Inspiration.
Yeah.
Find your inspiration. Figure out how to do that technique and buy what you need for that.
Yeah.
So, but we probably use mica powders the most.
Yeah.
Okay.
So going back to tool recommendations, there's just so many. What's your most fun tool to use? This is from Alacraft from Reddit. What's your most fun tool to use? Like, I look forward to using the bandsaw whenever I can because I enjoy it the most.
I like power carving.
Oh, yeah. Power carving is fun. It's just so fast.
It's so fast. It's very satisfying. Usually you're doing something that doesn't have to be the most precise. It's a little bit more artistic. So I think power carving is fun. Even like when we did our wood and resin computer, we did some power carving, but we also did some like Dremel carving, and I think that was really fun. Like, carving is just fun. It's kind of more artistic. I like that. There's a lot of tools that I like enjoy using because they're precise and feel sturdy and safe, and I like that. But in terms of fun, I feel like it's got to be power carving. What about you? Shishugi-ban. So, no. A flamethrower.
A flamethrower. No, that was a little bit of a joke answer in terms of what, like for me, it's like I love tools and everything in general, and I think that it's hard for me to choose a single tool. I just like being able to make what's in my head come out in a physical form.
Yes. Also, this podcast has been blessed. The supervisor is in my lap
The supervisor has arrived.
Yeah, she has arrived.
Honestly, like when I think back, this is kind of a weird or lame answer. It might be unexpected for a lot of people. But like, if I could only use like one tool in a strange way, it might be a 3D printer. I know we haven't done many 3D printer projects. I know that
That is one of the most fun for you to use, though.
I do really like 3D modeling and then 3D printing stuff. It's just...
Yeah. You can just do so much.
I can just do so much. So I think it's like a surprise answer for me, too. Because it's not really like actively fun to use, but like just my mind loves it, like the idea of a 3D printer. Because like I see things in 3D, I can like make them because I have 3D modeling experience, and then boom, they come out. And it's good.
It's cool.
This is another nerdy question for a nerdy answer that I can provide. Mr. Can't Play Guitar from Reddit asks, what are your favorite phone apps for makers or for DIY stuff?
Yeah, do you have an answer?
I have an answer.
What's your answer?
McMastercar. They make an app.
Oh, they have an app?
They have an app. And you can just like look up like all sorts of like tools and supplies and everything like that. Like, for example, on the tensegrity table, so many people asked, like, where did you buy that tensioning rig to tension all the cables? No. I just browsed McMastercar until I found all the components that I wanted
and you built
to put it together. And I built it with little angle brackets and everything, typing in and sorting everything to be exactly what I wanted. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
So, I mean, I've definitely, at some times in my past, just spent some time just browsing tools and supplies. Just because I like that.
I also, this is kind of lame and it's not really an app, but just some sort of place to document your research for a specific project. Like we on every for every single one of our projects, we make a shared Google Doc, and we have, you know, some of the YouTube-y stuff down below, like where we can write down title and tags and description and stuff. But then above we have an area for planning and notes, and you know, we can link to YouTube videos that we've, you know, researched. We can link to different tools, and I just think it's a helpful way to gather your thoughts.
My favorite app for DIY and making is YouTube.
Nice. Evan's winking.
There's this one channel I really like.
Called Evan and Katelyn.
Actually, there's 5 channels I really like. How many channels do we have now?
Well, yeah, but they're not all DIY.
That's true.
Yeah. Evan's winking a lot. Julie, you have some ear itches? Oh, and now you're giving me kisses? Thank you, Macy.
Well, related to that, we have 2 questions, both from Reddit. Well, I guess that's taken. And Have Canoe Will Travel asked, how would y'all recommend planning out long-term DIY projects? What sort of tools, whether they're physical or digital, would be best for organizing during the whole thing? And then when considering a new type of project, how much research do you do before committing to it? Watch a ton of YouTube videos and read a ton of articles, or just jump in and try it?
Hold on. I have a question real quick.
Yes.
We're recording on the camcorder. We're not recording on OBS. We can add it in later, right? We're getting audio. Having surprise face. I just noticed because I was like checking our live time. Are we okay? Camcorder's recording, right? I can just green screen us in.
You can just green screen us in. Oh man, that's embarrassing.
No, it's okay. That's how we used to do it. Well,
yeah,
not
but
fully,
like, thank goodness we have the backup.
I know.
Oh wow.
I guess you didn't start push recording at the beginning. I thought you did.
I thought I did. I remember. pushing the button,
pushing and waiting. Yeah,
and I didn't see an error message.
I know. Anyways,
Oops.
We'll get back to the questions, but well, I'll edit it. No one's gonna know the difference. It's fine.
Oh, jeez. So it honestly really depends on the type of project. Sometimes for the experience of like us in a way, we kind of want to go in blind. For example, candle making. We did just enough research to find the kits, but we didn't do like all of the research on like all of the ways it can fail and all of that, because we wanted to experience that genuinely in the moment.
Yeah. Now, would we recommend that if you're not a content creator trying to make an entertaining video?
No.
I would recommend doing more research.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think YouTube is honestly one of the best places.
Yeah, we do for a lot of things where we like want it to turn out correctly and everything. So for most of our videos, we do a decent amount of research. We watch YouTube videos, we read articles, and all of that stuff. And then we organize them all into a Google Doc with like, and then also sometimes we then will 3D model it, or Katelyn will make a mock-up of it.
Or we'll do both.
And then we'll even sometimes write steps 1 through 12 for us to follow, because while we're filming, we're juggling so much. And we don't want to like forget mold release.
Yeah, sometimes we do, even if we do write it down, we forget things. But again, I guess most people won't be filming it, so it's a little bit easier to like pause. But I do think like having one big master doc or something to gather all of your resources, but then jotting down like the actual steps, just so you don't have to read through so much when you're out in the workshop.
Yeah.
It's like when we were doing the resin keycaps, we like did a little diagram for ourselves, and we're like, okay, the first coat needs to be clear.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do our embeds. Then we're going to do space background 1, and then space background darker, and then clear again, or whatever.
So in terms of planning, I'd recommend a physical document or a digital document to organize it all, gather your links, write out the steps and stuff. But then also it's really nice having just a normal notebook. So when you are like, grab your calipers and you like measure something in the shop, or like, draw out a diagram or something like that. It's those two in combination.
Because we sketch a decent amount, just like on paper. It's like we'll either use, 3D modeling or Photoshop or something to do more final designs. But when we're just kind of brainstorming, we'll sketch a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so back to tools. There's a lot of questions from that. A DDS asks, what are some things that you would want to do for your next house that you can't do with your current tools? What are those tools, and how much do you invest in them?
Yeah, so I think it's hard to say like what projects we'll want to do in a new house, but there are tools that we want to have in our new house that we definitely don't have room for.
Yeah, I think one of the first that I'm really excited to get is an actual, legit, big
table saw.
Yes,
because we have a little contractor grade one, and it makes us nervous every single time we use it because table saws are scary, and we want a big, sturdy one.
Yeah, throwback to like another question that was asked. Carolina from Twitter asks, is there a power tool that's way too scary for you to ever get used? Like, we got it. We use it because...
We use it when we have to, but like... Okay, so here's a little like behind the scenes thing. A lot of times when we build furniture and stuff, so... just to give like a little bit of like background, if you're not super familiar with like, there's all these different types of saws and what do you use them for? Table saws are usually used for like ripping wood, which means like picture you have like a 1 by 12, and you need to make it a little bit skinnier than it is, long ways. That's how you slice off like a thin part of it, whereas like a miter saw is for cross cuts, so if you want to make it a little bit shorter instead of a little bit skinnier. So a lot of times when we are building furniture and stuff, we will design the piece of furniture so that we can use all dimensional lumber, and we don't have to do any like ripping on the table saw. We don't need to make any of the boards skinnier, and that's just how we design our stuff so that we can avoid the table saw completely. Now sometimes it's unavoidable.
I think that's a smart way to do things, honestly.
Yeah, it's like you can do stuff like that. So if you're in an apartment and all you have room for is like a circular saw or something, and you don't want to do long cuts, just design stuff that doesn't need any long cuts.
Yeah.
Like you can do a lot with that. We've probably used our table saw like 2 times in 2020, like we don't use it very often.
And honestly, sometimes when we do use it, we don't even like film it, just because like, Katelyn has to be on one end and I need to be on the other at times. And we want to, and we don't actually like, because it is a slightly more dangerous tool. We don't want to like ever think about any filming sides of it. We want
and if we do
all
film
of our minds to be about like safety and all of that stuff. And when you get a bigger table saw, it's you still have to worry about it, but it's much more solid. There's
Ours
more
is a
tables on all sides.
Yeah, you have in-feed and out-feed
support.
tables. Well, and then there's even things like the saw stop where like it will retract, if it senses human flesh,
Yeah.
So, but we just don't really have the
the space for that.
Space for what we want.
But also, like we were saying
currently.
earlier, like, you know, I want like a more legit sander, like a bigger belt sander, a bigger
drill press.
Yeah, drill press.
We want a laser cutter.
Yeah.
We want to set up the lathe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We haven't talked about that.
Yes, one of our patrons was kind enough to send us a whole lathe, but we don't really have room in this shop. We've considered a bigger CNC.
Yeah, bigger CNC. It depends on how big the shop we get is. For
yeah,
the
a lot
next
of it
place.
depends.
Yeah, but we definitely need more room.
But I think the more common theme, like the most common theme, is just the more legit versions of the tools that we have. And oftentimes the more quote unquote legit ones just take up more physical space.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because, like, oftentimes more features takes more space too, you know?
Now, this I thought was an interesting question from Josh Zesner on YouTube. Alton Brown has a philosophy about not buying single-use kitchen utensils. Do you have an example of this in the DIY workshop? Have you purchased anything that was single-use, and was it useful or not? And I find it interesting because, like, when it comes to kitchen utensils, like, I have a very strong aversion to single-use stuff unless it's something that, like, I know we're going to use a lot. Like our mandolin slicer is kind of single use, but we use that thing all the freaking time. So I'm
French
cool with
fries.
it. Yeah, how else are we gonna slice our fries?
And zucchini and other things.
And sometimes other stuff. Mostly French fries and zucchini. We eat that a lot.
Yeah.
But I feel like with our workshop, especially now that it is our jobs, I think we're much more open to buying single-use stuff, but it's still, like, we're still limited on space. So we're probably less likely to buy a single-use thing if it takes up a ton of space.
Yeah.
But if it's smaller, we're more, like, cool with it.
Also, it's like, sometimes we have no choice. Like, I'm just kind of looking through, like, I'm just, like, looking around the room we're in right now, and I see the tile clock that we had, that we made, where we covered it in alcohol ink and resin. And in order to drill a hole through it, we needed a very specific ceramic drill bit.
Yep.
We bought a set of them, and we used one once, and it's still in our cabinet.
Yep.
You know, and, like, there's no way to get around that. And it's like, it's we had to do it, so we can't control that. And because it's small enough not to be a huge inconvenience, we're keeping them because we might use it eventually in the future. Who knows?
Yeah. But something like the like Craig jig stuff, because we do pocket holes in a lot of different projects, even though it's kind of a single use thing, it's different if you use that use a bunch.
Or like, this is another great example. For the cat wheel, we bought and we used a router adapter for cutting circles. Mm-hmm. And it worked great. And that's the only way to cut it for us because our CNC wasn't big enough. Mm-hmm. And so we had to do it. And it's still hanging around on our shop wall.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, it was expensive enough not to like give away afterwards. And we might use it in the future.
Yeah. But I think you just have to like, for some types of projects and tasks, there are, many ways to skin a potato. But for certain things, there is going to be one way that's so far superior. So it's like, do you want to do that project enough to be worth the cost and the space taken up by the thing? And you just have to ask yourself that.
I have an example and a philosophy to put forth.
Ooh, yes. Drop it on us, baby.
For me, I love multi-use things.
Yes.
I absolutely love it. And if there is a version of a tool that is multi-use, I'll usually almost always opt for the multi-use one as long as it's not inferior to the single use if it's important, So as an example, we do resin pours a lot and we use heat items a lot. And the heat gun, I found one that was adjustable temperatures digitally and adjustable, fan. So that was like, multi-use, but also, we have the blowtorch, which is way too much heat. So I was looking for something in between, and I could have just gotten like a really simple butane lighter torch, but I found this other multi-tool that was the same size as like a normal butane torch, but there's all these add-ons that you could do for soldering, for cutting, for all sorts of different things. So instead of getting one specialized tool, I got one multi-tool. Mm-hmm. But if you need a special tool, get it. But always look for an alternative that can maybe do that and more.
Because sometimes there is one.
Yeah. And we're at the 45-minute mark.
Oh.
Should we do,
So we had a bunch of questions that were related to motivation, but that might be its own... That might need to be its own thing.
Yeah.
Because that is kind of its own... Let's see, are there any...
There are a few more tools.
Yeah. I mean, tools and materials and stuff is, very, very common questions we ask.
Yeah.
We get asked, so.
Josiah from Twitter asks, with so many tools and supplies for projects and so many projects created, what storage organization solutions have you found work best for you?
So I'll say we're better at storing the tools than we are the projects that we create, because
Yes.
sometimes they're really big, like a cat wheel. For the tools, our storage solutions are definitely still in progress, but I think one really cool thing that we have that isn't on camera much are the little tiny drawers for screws and nails and stuff.
Oh yeah, those. Oh yeah.
It's the set of little tiny drawers that we have. We're gonna have to link to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That you can put labels on that are the perfect size for a pack of screws or pack of nails, and we have those super organized, which is very helpful. We also have just the plastic clear sets of stackable drawers on our shelves in the garage, and I'm such a big drawer person. I know Adam Savage that doesn't like drawers. Drawers are where things go to die.
But clear drawers.
That are labeled.
Clear drawers that are labeled.
And so I love clear drawers that are labeled on shelves as opposed to just shelves, because I think shelves are where things go to die. Not because you can't see them, but because your shelves get so cluttered by just temporarily sitting stuff there that they become useless.
Yeah.
And so I like shelves, I like cabinets, I like boxes within boxes within boxes.
We also, because the clear drawers that we have also protect things from getting dusty.
Yeah, from getting dusty.
If they were open, then they'd get dusty.
Yeah, which is why I also like our cabinets. And we've had these for a couple years now. Mm-hmm. And I think our cabinets would be improved by some drawers inside the cabinets. Or some little stacking wire shelves. I think we need some of that to take more advantage of the height in some of them.
Yeah, but these shelves have been great.
Keeping things safe from dust and being able to take advantage of vertical storage. And we love our pegboard too.
Yeah.
The pegboard for the grab and go stuff. And we have metal pegboards, which are awesome. They're super sturdy and they're in tinier segments. They're in a 1.5 by 2.5 foot tall segments.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. And so they're, when you're installing them, they're easy to handle because they're smaller pieces. But yeah, I think pegboards are great.
Pegboards are good for the grab and go.
For grab and go.
Clear storage is great for,
we keep all of our safety gear in those little clear drawers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but sometimes you also just need metal cabinets because stuff's heavy.
Yeah, exactly. Resin. All of our resin is in that cabinet.
or right here, we do a lot of our heavy tools in this one right here.
That we don't necessarily want to hang on the pegboard.
Yeah.
Pegboard shelves are also nice.
Pegboard shelves.
The little shelves you can hook into there for stuff that you use enough that it's grab and go, but it's hard to hang it from a hook, like our little orbital sanders.
Yeah, but I think that lots of people know about cabinets and about pegboard. Metal pegboard's a big improvement, but also I think that we are big advocates of clear plastic storage containers.
We have them inside too. They're all in the closet that we're staring at right now.
So many of them.
Clear plastic storage containers with labels. You need a label maker. Get a label maker for your workshop.
Yeah,
it's necessary.
Yeah. You could even get multiple colors and you could color code.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that in the future. Who knows?
Yes. I'd be down.
All right, one last question right there. Or should we end?
This would be a pretty short one.
All right.
Common Data from Twitter asks, what are some materials and tools that early on in your channel you had no idea about, but now are must-haves? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I was going to say resin. I don't know if we...
I think that also, I think that we've gotten a few questions about resin, but one thing that might tied in is like that we maybe haven't said here is resin is really good for a few reasons. One, it's always an adventure and slightly unpredictable. I know that like people are like, you've done resin so many times, shouldn't you like understand it by now? But it always flows in different ways. It always like has some slight mystery and unexpectedness to it. Even in the 1 million glitter special, we did it upside down. So when we peeled it out, we had no clue what it was going to look like.
Well, I'm going to go back to saying that is a positive for us because we're making videos and we want them to be interesting. I don't think you necessarily want them to be interesting or a surprise if you're just making your own river table. But the unpredictability of resin can sometimes lead to really cool things artistically. Yeah. Because like it does kind of... It's like watercolor. Like, it's just going to have its own cool patterns and stuff built into it by nature. Yeah. So we love resin because it's, like, artistic, you know? It adds, like, an artistic and colorful element.
It's structural?
It's structural. Like, you can... And we've done this. You can just pour, like, a blank slab of resin and use it for structural purposes. Yeah. It is adhesive. Yeah. It can glue things together.
I mean, there's this website called This to That, where you like say, how do I want to attach blank to blank? There's all sorts of answers all over the place, but resin is usually the answer for everyone.
And hey, that's another great, it's not, I don't think maybe there's an app version, but on the apps for makers, it's a website for makers, This to That. It's how to glue stuff together.
Yeah, but like, if you want to glue glass to metal, like I think one of the only answers is resin. You know? I mean, you know, it's
resin works for most things.
Resin works for almost everything. Or epoxy. You know, resin and epoxy, what's the difference? I don't know. They're close enough.
Yeah. This is how expert we are. But I think that's like the main thing. You know? Yeah. Because like 3D printers you had pretty early on. I would say like we are spoiled with the CNC. We didn't have that initially. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just really nice for when you need a CNC,
it's really
nice to have a CNC.
Mm-hmm. And that was something we didn't have early on.
You can do it with alternatives, but it's just way more work.
That's why I categorized it as like us being spoiled.
Yeah, but I think resin's the biggest thing that changed all sorts of aspects of what we do. Like even on the DIY Cat Kiss Cat House, we originally were thinking that we were going to do that with just paper mache.
Then we said, nope, covered in resin.
It's structural.
This is kind of an adjacent thing. Yeah. But air conditioning for our workshop.
Oh, game changer.
Game changer.
Absolute game changer.
The first, like, 1.5 summers of doing our channel, we had no AC. Yeah. And it was just so bad. Yeah. You know, and the winters, too. We had no heat. So that's probably like the biggest life changer.
Yeah, and another
more than resin, I don't know.
Another huge life changer for us is all of the filming and audio equipment that we've gotten that has really improved our specific process in our lives.
But I feel like that's not really DIY.
That's not really DIY. I feel like I want to share my thoughts on all of that, but I'm not sure if the podcast is the place for it. It needs to be visual to a certain degree.
Or maybe we'll do a like content creation questions, answering your content creation questions.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a podcast like that in the future.
Because we did get some questions kind of related to that, like sharing your projects online and behind the scenes decision making and stuff. But it's more content creation specific than like DIY specific.
And I'll try to make it interesting for people who aren't going to do this too, because like so much of what we do is so impractical for anyone else in the world.
That's why we keep having to do like, well, now we make decisions this way, but before we had a channel, it was this way.
It's like this desk that we're at right now. The only people that would need the desk are us. like. Content creator husband-wife teams.
Or like I saw a question, I don't remember if we wrote it down, but there was a question that was like, how do you motivate yourself to do like impractical projects? You know, because it's very easy if you're like, well, I need a side table. Yeah. So like I'm going to try to save money by like making my own side table. Yeah. You know, there's like a practical use for it, but how do you convince yourself to make a cat kiss cat house? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like some things are a little bit more unknown, and that is kind of a hard thing to answer because we really only, well, I guess there's different definitions of impractical. Most of the impractical stuff we have done since we started the channel. There were some things that had a veil of practicality, but like
we just wanted
like our big marquee love letters.
Well, who needs big marquee letters?
You don't really need them. We just wanted them. So it kind of comes down to like, well, do you want it?
Yeah.
Even if it's impractical? Because if you want it.
If you want it enough,
that's motivation.
There's your motivation. Yeah. Okay, so that's a tease on the motivation. Enough motivation.
Okay. Well,
we're going to save it for a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
But for now, it's time for Thing of the Week. So, my Thing of the Week are stretchy pants.
Sometimes a man wears stretchy pants.
It's for fun. But specifically, this is like a random side tangent. We were contacted by our wedding photographer to help them do Beauty and the Beast themed photo shoot once.
Long time ago.
And the pants that I wore on that shoot were amazing. They were inspirational. They in the pocket, there's like a hidden elastic stretchy band, so that when you sit down and your body shape changes, it stretches. Mm-hmm. Because like, wearing workout pants or comfy pants or like, PJs, there's that stretchiness and that's why it's comfortable. But wearing jeans or something like that, that's so inflexible, when you sit down, your body gets squished.
Yeah.
By your
pants.
By your pants. And it's so interesting because like with this new style of hiding elastic, there's no stretch visible. There's no seams.
It's like camouflaged by the belt loops kind of, and like where your belt would be. Like the piece of fabric looks like it's the seam.
Well, no, you don't even like, it's like there's a seam where the pocket seam would usually be, but instead of it being a seam, it's an overlapping layer.
Yeah, but it looks like a seam.
It looks like a seam, but that it moves.
Yeah,
and
it's fascinating to me because like my jeans are stretchy jeans.
Yeah.
But it's different because it's like my whole fabric is a certain level of stretch, and my guess is if my jeans had that little hidden thing, they would be even more comfortable because like there's only so much stretch you can build into like the waistband because there's so much more stitching and stuff in that area.
My guess is that it's like a little bit more expensive to manufacture, but like they're not that much more expensive than normal pants.
Yeah, you got yours on Amazon.
Yeah. And like I'm like, why doesn't everyone use the hidden pocket stretch?
For the stretchy pants.
For the
Technically, yours are
stretchiness.
stretchy shorts.
Stretchy shorts, yeah, because I wear shorts all the time.
Yeah, you don't like
because
pants.
like my legs get hot if I'm in pants.
Yeah.
Anyways, it seems really random, but like, guys, look it up. Super stretchy shorts. No one will know you're in comfy pants.
And you don't need to look it up because we're going to have a link in the description.
Look in the description.
Yeah, to Evan's stretchy shorts that he discovered. Now, are these the best stretchy shorts? We don't know.
I don't know.
You've tried a couple, and these are like the first ones that you're like, yeah, these are good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I tried. Well, I thought one was going to be it, but they came in and they didn't have it. So I've only tried two, really.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the quest continue, but like use this as a starting point because...
On your stretchy pants journey.
On your stretchy shorts journey. Katelyn, what's your thing of the week?
The Bachelor.
It's kind of our thing of the week.
Yeah, it's kind of our thing of the week shared, but I'll claim
the Bachelor, the Bachelorette.
Interchangeable. But, I think it's a good thing to claim right now because a new season just started.
Yeah.
And it's been an interesting season so
far. But you know
what?
It's just really fun to sit there and... Judge.
And I used to watch The Bachelorette and The Bachelor like with my mom back in the day, and we would watch and we would judge, and it was so fun. And I kind of fell out of the habit of watching like around college and after, because it's most fun when you have someone to watch with and judge.
Katelyn and I pause the show
so much. We pause it so much.
We keep the remote in between us.
And we're like, oh.
And then like when there's an awkward part, I like pause it and I like run around and go, that's so awkward.
Evan has to run away when it's too awkward.
But then like also like when someone says something the wrong way, then I'm like, ooh, he or she should have said it this way. I wonder if this is what they meant. Or are they really insensitive in that way?
Yeah.
Or like, I'm like, ooh, when he or she said that, I think that was it for them. That's incompatible. Or like, ooh, I can't believe, why are they being so awkward at this point? Like they had good chemistry earlier, and now all of a sudden they're cooking in the kitchen. I wonder what about that threw off their dynamic.
Or like, look at her face. Look at her face. She is not happy right now. You can tell. He can't tell. We can tell. So it's so fun.
It's so fun to like.
You just get to judge all these people dating,
And like, it's like, we don't know these people. They could be great. And, it could all just be in the editing.
Well, it's not like we're like live tweeting like, oh, this person sucks. We're not. We're just judging quietly to ourselves in the comfort of our own home.
It's a judgment-free judge zone.
Judgment-free judge
Between the two of us,
judgment-free.
And we can judge all we want. And
it's fun.
It's fun. And it's a fun thing to just talk about. It creates a lot of talking opportunities. And we like talking and hanging out.
Yeah.
And judging.
I know that there's a lot of people that are like, oh, it's all so fake and this and that. And it's like, I know a lot of it is produced, but I also know that it's in the best interest of the show if it works out between the couple, because their whole premise is built on finding love. And if every single couple ended up breaking up within a few months, which sometimes they do, but if it happened every single time, then it like devalues the show. So it's in their best interest to like actually make it work, And so like there is some like fake stuff in the production and curveballs thrown in, but there's also like realness to it too, which I think makes it interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too.
It's fun.
It's just fun.
Yeah. Give it a shot, especially if you have someone to watch it with, like that you're living with, and you guys can always watch it together.
Yeah.
Or even if you just like FaceTime somebody.
Yeah.
And like judge together.
Yeah, like we started watching the current season. We were watching old stuff, but we moved up to the current season so we could like kind of like gossip and chat.
Yeah, we like text my mom or we text your sister.
Yeah,
and we're like, oh my gosh.
Oh, can you believe?
Yeah. It's fun.
We check to make sure they've watched it first. No spoilers.
Yeah. We always make sure we're up to date.
Yeah. But it's fun.
It's fun.
All right, guys. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions on all of the various platforms. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening and giving us a purpose to sit down and just chat about stuff, share some of our knowledge. And I hope you're having a great day. If you haven't heard, we are in the middle of a prank.
Yes.
The prank is to get random people who don't know us to listen to our podcast and be confused.
Yeah, because if you don't know us from YouTube stuff, then this podcast will make no sense to you.
No sense.
Why do people listen to these people?
If you want to be in on the prank too and contribute, head over to whatever platform you are on. Give us a good review. It'll push us up in the charts. I noticed the other day we were like number 7 on Australia. So maybe we prank some Australians. Flip a prank.
Got you.
And also, it's fun reading your reviews because some of you guys are getting very creative with them, and we appreciate a little bit of humor delivered to our inbox.
Yes.
So that's a prank. Hope you're having a great day. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. Kukwa, and we'll see you in the next content.
Not all the podcast listeners know Kukwa. Oh. That's more of a stream thing.
Well, Google
if you want to know what Kukwa means,
tune into our live streams. All right, bye.
Bye.